In this video, I'm going to share with you the best practices, tips and tricks to write SEO-friendly headlines for your blog post, product pages, category pages, and any other pages that are intended to drive organic traffic from search engines. But before that, if you learn anything new from this video, like this video and write a nice comment below, it helps a lot. Also, subscribe for more actionable SEO insights. With that, let me share with you the 13 best practices for SEO-friendly headlines. The first best practice for SEO-friendly headlines is to use only one H1 tag for your headline and the rest H2, H3, and etc. used for your subheadlines. According to John Miller, Google does not have any problems with multiple H1 headings, and Google uses headings to get a better understanding of your content. The key is to have a clearly semantically understandable headings, as it is useful in understanding any given page. However, what's important is to deliver a great user experience, and by properly organizing and dicing your subheadings and headings, just like when you write your thesis, research proposal or any paper, it will improve the hierarchy of the content and users can clearly see the importance of each heading and the semantic relationship between them. H1 headline is your title and is considered the most important header of your page, like for every book, news, article, magazine, TV show, movie and others. You have only one title and not multiple titles, as it would confuse your users. Therefore, using only one H1 tag is the best way to semantically specify the main headline of your page and then continue with subheadings, as this would make it easier for users and even search engines to understand what your page is about. Not only that, but it will also improve your writing and how you structure your content. Remember, providing the best and most valuable content that is understandable to your audience should be your top priority, and it's the best SEO practice you can implement. On top of that, it will help with SEO voice optimization, as well as for screen readers to generate content more accurately from your page for people with vision disabilities. The next best practice for SEO-friendly headline is to include your primary keyword in your top headline or your H1 tag. That's because, as already mentioned, your headline is a strong signal to Google what your page is about. For example, in every of my article or web page, you can see I make sure I include the primary keyword I'm targeting with the content. Here is an example of my off-page SEO activity list article. This will help search engines to better understand your content and improve the ranking of your pages right from the beginning. Remember, you want to make it as easy as possible for Google to understand your content, yet keep it natural for your users without any keyword stuffing or without making any sacrifice of the quality of the content. Another way to improve your SEO headlines is to place the primary keyword towards the beginning. In my experience, from both user and search engine standpoint, the closer the keyword is to the beginning, the more relevant it is to the users and the more weight it has with search engines. Such example of this could be my article on how to do competitor backlink analysis. However, not always does this practice make sense, and sometimes including the primary keyword in the middle can result in a better headline, such as in my article on profitable keywords. You can see the keyword is in the middle. Thus, prioritizing the user experience can outweigh the benefit of adding keywords towards the beginning of the headline. The next important practice to make SEO-friendly headlines is to follow the search intent. Search intent means the reason behind the search query, and it will help you create the right type of content. Focus on the angle of the content and even how to write your headline. For example, if you are targeting the keyword removing stain from wood, you can look at the search results to see how the top ranking pages write their own titles and headlines. And you can see that most of the web pages use how to in their title, which makes perfect sense for this query. And you can even see one is adding the primary keyword at the beginning of the title, which again makes sense to me, as perhaps there are multiple ways to clean stains from wood. So, based on this, you'll know what type of headline and title you should write for your article as well. But of course, you want to add your own spin on it to make it unique and stand out, as that could result in people choosing to click on your page rather than your competitors. Don't be a copycat. The next best practice for SEO-friendly headlines is to add your primary keyword in your subheadings if possible, as said by John Miller. So, headings on a page help us to better understand the content on the page. Headings on the page are not the only ranking factor we have. We look at the content on its own as well. But sometimes having a clear heading on a page gives us a little bit more information on what that section is about. With that, you have already added your primary keyword in the top headline to help Google better understand your content. And not always it does make sense to add the primary keyword in the subheadings again without making it weird or sticking out like a sore thumb. Therefore, in many of my articles, I only include the keyword in the headline, and I won't repeat it in the subheadings again, as there is no way to do that without keyword stuffing. But if you can naturally include the main keyword in another subheadings, then go for it. Like for example in my article on B2B blog strategy. Usually you can repeat the primary keyword when you are explaining what, why and how's for the target keyword. Otherwise it might be challenging. So don't worry if you cannot add the keyword in another subheadings. Always keep it natural. The next best SEO practice for SEO-friendly headlines is to use them to capture or rank for a feature snippet. There are many different feature snippets in the search that you can try to rank for. However, the most common feature snippet that you will try to optimize for with your headline is the paragraph feature snippet or the knowledge card. This feature snippet intends to answer user questions right within the search engine result pages without the need to visit any of the ranking pages. So, first of all, how do you find feature snippet opportunities for your target keyword? For most, if you are using keyword research tools like SE Ranking, it shows you all the served features that appear for the keyword. Once you know what keywords have the potential to rank for the feature snippet, the next thing you need to know is what relevant question long-tail keywords variants you need to target within the content to rank for the feature snippet. The easiest way to do that is to look at the people also ask box and pick the questions from there and include them within your content. For example, as you can see for the keyword B2B target audience, some of the relevant question long-tail keywords variants that can be included within the content are: what is B2B target audience? How is B2B target audience determined? And even who are the B2B customers and what are B2B customers looking for are some of the variants I could use within my content to optimize for feature snippet. And I did. As you can see in my content targeting the keyword B2B target audience, I have included the relevant question keyword variant within 2. Optimize and rank for the feature snippet, and add primary keyword in my subheadings to further help Google understand my content, as I have already explained. So, like this, you can use headlines and subheadlines to optimize for a feature snippet, and every keyword you target that have this served feature, you should optimize your content to rank for the feature snippet. Another way your headlines make more SEO friendly is to not be afraid of longer headlines and go against the stereotypes and old-fashioned SEO advice. A lot of SEOs will advise you to keep your headlines short and sweet, so they are easy to read, scan, and users can receive the information in more concise method. However, this is a myth. A recent study by Backlinko shows that longer headlines are correlated with more social shares. Headlines that are 14 to 17 words in length generate 76.7% more social shares than short headlines. And that same was approved by share-through research that shows long headlines maximize engagement. Specifically, headlines with 21 to 28 words work the best. With that, longer headlines allow you to provide more information to users and search engines about your content, which this extra information may motivate people to keep reading your content. And longer headlines can include more close terms that can match keyword searches on Google and on social media sites, which can drive more traffic and social shares. Therefore, I believe experimenting with headlines regardless of at looking their length will help you to drive the best results. Try A/B testing with short and longer headlines and you will see which one works the best for the particular keyword. The next SEO-friendly headline best practice, and also one of the biggest SEO mistake you can make, is to let WordPress or other CMS system copy the headline as your URL slug. Unfortunately, plenty of websites still keep making the mistake of having a URL slug being made from a headline. For example, if if you look at this URL, you can see they exactly copy the URL from the headline with numbers in it. This one did the same and left the year in it. Or this one just copies the entire long headline. Or this makes it extremely hard to update the content later. What if you change the number of tips, the year of the article, or the search intent change? All this makes it difficult to update your content, and it makes it your headline and content not evergreen, even if it is an evergreen topic. So the best practice to make SEO-friendly URL is to include only your primary keyword. This makes it easier for Google to identify what's your content about. According to John Miller, keywords in URLs are a small ranking factor. And even the backlink study shows that short URLs tend to have a slight ranking advantage over longer URLs. Therefore, only include your primary keyword in your URL. Don't let your CMS copy the URL SLUG from your headline. For example, if you look at my article about resource link building, or this article about SEO keyword mapping, you can see I'm only including the primary keyword and nothing else. This makes it short and sweet and easily recognizable by Google. Also, it will make it easy for me to update my content every year, create more evergreen content, send a strong signal to Google about what's my page about, and easily change and modify my headlines for the best results. The next SEO-friendly headlines best practice is to include brackets. According to a study from Outbrain, adding brackets to headlines can improve click-through rate by up to 38%. And from my experience, I can see this can work. Again, it does not always work, but it is another way to differentiate your content, provide more information, and it can provide a sneak preview of your content. This can help your users make the decision that your content has the answers they are looking for. That's why I'm always trying to experiment with brackets in my headlines. A good example of this is on-page SEO versus off-page SEO article with the infographic. As said, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but worth to try. Another useful practice to improve your headline click-through rate, thus making headlines more SEO-friendly, is to include numbers in headlines. In fact, most did a headline study, which found that 36% of readers preferred headlines with a number in them. It also has been found by research, newspaper headlines and relevance, ad hoc concepts in ad hoc contexts, that numbers or list headlines often provide that optimal balance of information and ambivalence, intriguing us just enough to click, on the chance that we'll come across something particularly relevant or exciting. And lastly, BuzzStream and Frax study shows that list posts get the most social traction. In plain, our brain is attracted to numbers. Whether it is a list of posts or just adding a year to your headline can make your article more relevant and interesting. For example, if you look at my top articles, you can see all my articles include numbers in them, whether it is a list post or just adding the current year. Therefore, adding numbers in your headlines can improve your click-through rate and even social shares, which both ways can improve your ranking in SERPs. Another tip I have for you to write more SEO-friendly headlines and generally better headlines for any of your content is to use the 20 ideas method from Brian Tracy. Yes, you might have a good idea on the first one, but trust me, if you come up with 20 different headlines, at least one of them will be great. And yes, that is what I'm saying and doing. I produce around 10 to 20 different headlines for each of my content. Why? Because it opens my creativity and allows me to produce the best possible headlines for my content. And remember, the first thing your users see when they visit your webpage is the headline. And if it is not good enough, it does not spark any interest, they will bounce back and leave. Therefore, by using this method, you can be sure you write one of the best headlines you could possibly make. Another tip to produce SEO-friendly headlines is to try headline analyzer tools. There are a ton of different headline analyzer tools you can use. For me, I usually use these three: Monster Insights Headline Analyzer, Share-Through, and CoSchedule Analyzer. Each of these tools gives you a score of your headline and ways to improve it. For example, as you can see from Monster Insights Headline Analyzer, it gives you the overall score, good information about your headline, and ways to improve it. Therefore, every time you create your headlines, run them through the headline analyzer to find ways to improve them and then decide which one is the best or run an A/B test to see which one performs the best. However, to run the A/B test, you will need some traffic, which at the beginning of publishing a new article or web page doesn't really happen. And the very last best practice to write better headlines and SEO friendly is to write your headlines last. This is a copywriting tip, but extremely useful, and since I learned this, I most of the time write my headlines as the last. Your headline should offer some promise, what your audience will receive from reading your content. However, before you give the promise, you need to know what's in your article or web page. Therefore, by writing your article first and then the headline, you know exactly what your readers will get if they read it. Based on this, you can write a very accurate headline that delivers on the promise. You can also create clickbait titles that still deliver on the promise and won't upset your users. That's why, by writing your headline last, you will know exactly what your content delivers, and then you can write powerful headlines based on the content. Trust me, if you are struggling with the headline, then this method will help you tremendously. However, you also need to have some guidelines for what you will write about. That's why having the first draft of a headline or the keyword that you are targeting as your first headline will help you to stay focused on your topic without sliding into different dimensions. And of course, as I'm writing my article or any content, I sometimes do get an idea on a headline and write it down. But as I already said, I usually produce around 10 to 20 headlines for each of my content. And that's all from me. I hope you have learned something new, so please like this video, write a nice comment below, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, check out all my links in the description for my favorite SEO and other marketing tools. Ciao!